quick channel updates. We got accepted into the YouTube partner program. That doesn't mean we're monetized yet, but that means we can do like merch, super chats on the live stream, etc. Which hopefully, we hope you guys do soon or get a big enough following to do that. So that's number one. Number two, I had to move us over to. I thought this channel was connected to the correct email address. It wasn't. So I did that yesterday. Nothing's changed. The only reason I say that is if you guys see comments on there, it might look like it's from another handle. Those are just my old comments from that channel, which I'll just leave up. But just in case anyone's curious or whatever, that doesn't really matter. But anyways, let's get to the important stuff. Mavericks draft and free agency. I am absolutely ecstatic with what the Mavs have done. I made a video essentially before anyone else ever did or in Dallas saying that we should sign Kyrie Irving because it makes too much sense not to. And I still stand by that, and I think it's played out well for us. And the one thing that, Kyrie has his own unique issues or whatever, right? The one thing I didn't mention about Kyrie Irving, and this made me think of Chandler Parsons a little bit, is in today's game, right? You need guys who are going to recruit, that are going to bring an atmosphere that other players want to play with, that will actively go out and try to see, if anyone's interested, their buddies, quote unquote, right? That's just the way it is these days. And as bad of a contract it was that we signed Chandler Parsons to, one thing I always liked about Chandler Parsons is he was trying to get everybody to come to Dallas that he could or that he thought could help the team. And that's something I didn't mention in that Kyrie video. You guys can look up my old Kyrie video. And essentially I said it makes too much sense not to try and get Kyrie. I didn't necessarily like that we gave up Dorian Finney-Smith and Dinwiddie. I wish we could have maybe given someone else like Tim Hardaway or Bertans or something like that. But again, I think ultimately it was worth it. I think, Kyrie, in terms of what he brought next to Luka, which, I don't think we saw the best of them last year. I think they will work it out. But someone to take a little bit of the pressure off Luka in terms of ball handling and scoring, I think is we desperately needed. And, Kyrie's a good recruiter. And I think, I believe we signed him to a 3-year. The third year is a team option, I believe, or player option. So, there's a little bit of flexibility there as well. I thought what the contract we got for Kyrie and what we re-signed him for was great. I think it was a good move. And speaking of Davis Bertans, on draft night, we traded 2 spots back. We did a live stream during the draft. We traded and we commented on this, and I've been saying it for months and months, probably years now at this point, and I said it before the draft even started that I would give almost anything for the Mavs to trade out of the 10th pick and get rid of Bertans. That's all I wanted. I made a short on it as well, clipping what I was saying, and that is what happened, so I couldn't be happier with that. His contract was abysmal. The only thing you could say maybe as a rebuttal is that his contract, I believe, not this year or this year, if he doesn't play more than 75% of the games, then essentially you can walk away from his contract. That last year, it's a team option kind of thing, but there was that clause on it. So that was the only thing maybe you could have said. We hold on to him for a year and then he's off. But we got rid of him anyways. I think Lively is a great pick. Again, Lively, I'm hoping, I was really high on McGee last year, and I guess I was kind of wrong about that. Although I don't think McGee ever really got a fair shot. We didn't really use him enough. But again, I'm not the head coach. I'm not in the locker room. I don't see what's going on at practice, etc. He was a little hurt at times as well. But what I said about McGee last year, I'll say about Lively this year. We don't need you to do much. We need you to set good picks, roll to the basket, and just be a presence around the rim in terms of altering shots and getting rebounds. And that's what all he needs to focus on. And I think he can do it. I think he's, athletically, physically, he's obviously good enough. 7'1", 230 is what they got him listed at right there, which is pretty, I think is, him, Powell, McGee. You're looking at a pretty good rotation of centers that you hope somebody figures it out, or those three guys together can sort of make it work. We re-signed Powell. I think it was 3 years, $12 million total. So again, for $4 million a year, I'll take Dwight Powell on our team all day. I'd like to see Powell get better at, some of the things I've gone over in the film room episodes, which I need to get back to live streaming and doing the film room. I love breaking down film. It's definitely one of my favorite things. But one thing I want to see Powell do this year is, I don't know how much teams are going to double team Luka now that we have someone like Kyrie Irving who can make them pay. In terms of if you're gonna come double Luka out 40 feet away from the basket, you're leaving a lot of room for Kyrie to play with and someone with his ability to get into the lane and get layups and easy buckets, etc. So one thing though I would like to see Powell do this year that I thought he did good at times but not enough is when he gets that ball in the middle of the floor, I want to see him attack more. He's going to be another year removed from that injury he had about 3 years ago. And I know sometimes guys never are quite the same, but, he's still explosive enough to make teams pay. And that's something Lively and McGee are going to need to do as well. I would put Lively and Powell probably ahead of McGee in terms of being able to catch the ball out of a double team at, the three-point line or the free throw line, that middle of the court area, and being able to attack and make teams pay with their athleticism, whether they're attacking and making the defense suck in and kicking it out, or just straight up going to the hole. So from the center position, the front court is where we were really lacking, especially after we got Kyrie. The back court sewn up. I think we're good there. You're looking at probably the best 1-2 in terms of a guard, shooting guard, however you want to kind of label Luka and Kyrie, however they're going to kind of play together. I mean, that's obviously the best 1-2, positions 1-2 in the league combo, I would think. I can't really think of anyone who would be better. So there's that. The front court was our biggest need, and I think going out and getting Lively while also getting off of Bertans' contract was huge. We then go and get Omax, Olivier Maxence Prosper, or they call him Omax, which is obviously much easier than however bad I just butchered his name right there. Again, a big forward, athletic guy, two defensive guys. Lively and Omax, are going to bring much better defense to the front court, I think, right away. And they will play. I am hoping that the Mavericks do not sit on Omax like they did Hardy last year. And speaking of Hardy, I think between Luka, Kyrie, as you can see here, we got Seth Curry back for his third stint with the Mavs, a guy who can space the floor with his shooting. I think he can handle the ball enough to play a little point guard for you if Luka and Kyrie are out. Those three guys, along with Hardy, might be the best. If Hardy can be the guy we hope he is, and I think he is that guy. I think he is capable of making an all-star team or two, being, if he continues to develop, and what I've seen from him in the G League, and he had decent numbers when he came in and played at the end of last year. There's no reason to think he can't maybe be a third or second team All-NBA a couple years, maybe a couple All-Star teams, right? A crucial piece on a championship contending team. I think he's that good as a point guard. The defense and his passing could maybe use a little improvement, but I think they're good enough. I think obviously his going to the hole I think is really good. Hopefully we see more of that, and hopefully that's where again Powell, Lively, and McGee rolling to the hole comes in, and we'll see how Omax does. Omax is not necessarily an offensive guy, neither is Lively really though. But again, the big bodies in the front court, athletic, they can move, they can guard a few positions. I like our draft picks. Again, when you have guys like Kyrie and Luka, these more I wouldn't call Luka necessarily finesse, but guys who can score in many different ways. They kind of take care of the offense on their own. I think you need big uglies like that, as they would call them. You need guys who kind of can do that dirty work, and I think Omax and Lively will be able to step in and do that right away. And so I'm very much looking forward to our draft picks. I think we nailed the draft. I couldn't really I'm not sure what else I would change about the draft in terms of the first round. The Mavs, now the reason why I say I was so right about the Kyrie Irving signing, and look, when we got him last year, I think the plans were always to keep him, right? To keep him paired with Luka. I think we learned our lesson with Brunson to not just let someone like that walk away, because what are you going to get? You let Kyrie walk, what are you going to get? You're not going to get anything that's going to replace him. So, that being said, I think the Kyrie Irving trade, him recruiting and, guys wanting to play with him, we're going to see what happens here in a little bit when a lot of these free agents open up and they can be signed. The two guys I would keep an eye on, and again, getting rid of Bertans' contract, and for how much money we signed Kyrie Irving to, we essentially have the full mid-level exception, right? Which is essentially is like 17, 18 million, something like that. I'm not a contract salary cap expert, but essentially, we have enough room to go get one more solid role player. And, while also maybe being able to move a piece or two, I would like to get off McGee's contract if we could. I just don't think it's working out. I'm almost never a panic guy in terms of, well, he had one bad year, let's move on. The way this team's constructed and what I saw from McGee last year, I just didn't quite see what I was hoping to see. He had some bright spots. I still think he can be serviceable, but I just don't think Kidd in the front office are going to sort of focus on what he can do for us the way I was hoping. So I think, unfortunately, if we can get off of his contract, and maybe Tim Hardaway Jr., he's been talked about in a lot of trade scenarios. I like Tim Hardaway Jr. I think he's a solid player, but looking at the guard depth that we have now, and the frustrating thing about Tim Hardaway Jr. is he is like on that cusp of being one of your better players, or he needs to accept his role as a role player, right? No pun intended. And he's just in that sort of in between sometimes. And for how much we're paying him, I think he sort of needs to step it up, but I don't think he's capable of his game taking that next step for how much we're paying him. And I just think paying someone that much money for a role player also doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And that's why I like Hardaway's game, right? I think he can be serviceable. If he's your fourth, fifth best player, I think you've got a good roster. But now that we have Seth Curry, Kyrie coming into the fold last year, and how much we're paying Hardaway Jr., I think I would like to try and move McGee and Hardaway. And you guys, I've mentioned what I think about draft picks. While yes, we did good with the Lively pick, we still got him at 12, right? I think unless you have a top, if you're on that cusp of the top 10, I just don't think draft picks work out most of the time. Just kind of looking at the statistical averages. Once you kind of get out of that, of course, there's always exceptions. I understand that. But once you kind of get out of that top 10, 15 range, picks are just not, they're just not worth what you think you're going to get in return when you draft somebody. And I think in the NBA, a player where you know what you're going to get, a proven commodity, or a guy who knows his role or has a certain skill set, I think is worth more than sort of taking the risk on a guy outside of the top 10 or 15 and hoping he develops to be better than what you maybe could have traded for. So Tim Hardaway Jr. and McGee, as well as a draft pick or two, has been mentioned in some trade ideas. Again, and we still have the full mid-level exception. I can easily see us making a move to get another guy or two. And the two guys I've got my eye on right now are, I believe it's Grant Williams. I know it's Williams, but I think it's Grant Williams from Boston. I think he would fit so well with this team. A spot-up three-shooter, a good defender. Again, I think we've done a lot to kind of sew up our defensive woes in the front court, and we really just need guys to catch lobs from Kyrie and Luka, set good picks, and get us some rebounds and second chance opportunities here and there. I think we have some guys to do that now. And along with Williams, Allen from Cleveland, the center, he would be another guy I would love to take a look at. I think Cleveland's trying to get rid of him. I would love to get I don't think we can get both. I think that's pretty sure. Unless somehow we're able to it is possible that we could trade McGee, Hardaway, and a draft pick or something of that nature for Allen, and maybe Kyrie's able to recruit Williams for the full mid-level, 16, 17, 18 million a year. I think it is. Again, I'm not a salary cap expert on this stuff, but that's what I think we're looking at. And if we get off McGee and Hardaway's contract, and I'm willing to put a pick in there to make it work, again, we're looking at maybe picking up at least, I hope, and the way Nico deserves a little bit of credit here for what he's done. I'm still not a very big fan of Jason Kidd, but we'll see. He's had one good year, one bad year, technically on paper, even though I think his one good year was really a product of Luka and the guys on that team sort of stepping up more than Kidd adjusting and making good moves as a coach. But that's neither here nor there. He's had one good year, one bad year on paper, and although you could say maybe them tanking those last few games at the end of the year, if that was part of the master plan and Kidd went with that, then I guess he deserves some credit on that. I definitely thought it was a bad move at the time. I will definitely walk that back. It looks like it's paid off, and looking at our draft. If there's some way to get Allen and Williams, I don't think we can get both, but if we can get one of those guys, this team is looking light years ahead of where I thought they were going to be a year or two ago. My biggest frustration with the Mavs the last, towards the end of the year or two was just we had bad contracts. I think Hardaway's a little overpaid. I was hoping McGee would show a little more than I thought he would, but again, we're not paying him terribly too much. Bertans was kind of something we had to eat in that Porzingis trade with Dinwiddie and Bertans coming over, so I understand that, but it's still a bad contract. Dinwiddie probably is going to get some good money here at the end of this year or next. I can't quite remember when his contract's up. And we just were on some bad contracts, and the most frustrating, and I talked to this because, I live in Houston. A lot of my friends are Rockets fans, but there was a while there when the Rockets were just in no man's land, and they were maybe the 8th seed in the playoffs. This is before Harden got good and got rolling, or they got him. They were maybe the 8th, or maybe got the 8th seed in the playoffs, or maybe 9th or 10th, and you're not really getting good lottery picks, but you're also not at the, able to just tear it down and rebuild. That is the worst place to be in, whether you're a fan, the front office, you have a star player on your team, because it's going to take a year or two to sort of see if we can catch lightning in a bottle and and put something together and make a run, which is not likely, or you're going to have to just tear it down and trade some assets, move some contracts, and you're going to suck for 2 or 3 years. as you maybe get some better picks and you can develop guys or clear some cap space and do something about it. And when you have a guy like Luka, you don't want to do that either. When you get a guy like Luka, you are never in let's wait 2 or 3 years mode. Let's make some moves so that 2 or 3 years from now we can maybe look at making some moves. You can't do that with a guy like Luka. I mean, looking at Dirk, I think we wasted a little bit of Dirk's career because we just didn't quite go after it, right? The DeAndre Jordan, free agency debacle kind of comes to mind. Things like that, right? Letting Nash go. There's just certain things I think we did during Dirk's career that if we could redo it, I think we would have done some things different, and he might have another ring or two. Who knows? But with Luka is, at this point in his career, is far and away surpassing where Dirk was. And I say that as the biggest Dirk fan in the world. Where Luka is now, is just absolutely incredible. And you cannot let any year go to waste. There is not a year where we're letting anything go to waste. And, that's why I thought maybe perhaps getting out of the playoffs and losing those last few games there at the end of the year, I didn't really like, because I thought it was a bad place to be in terms of Luka's psyche. But seeing where it's led to, totally refreshed, a clean slate, almost a new start. I think Nico, Nico being the sort of businessman background that he is, it's almost like business first, basketball second, I think has been a blessing in disguise. And this kind of goes back to Jerry Jones. A lot of people don't like Jerry Jones, but the thing about Jerry is Jerry's willing to take some risk here or there, right? And I think if you're going to win a ring, if you're going to kind of catch that lightning in a bottle, or if you're going to kind of build something, you have to take some risk every so often. And what Nico's done this offseason, in the foresight he's had, I have to give him his props. I have to give him his credit where it's due, and he's definitely done a good job. So I am absolutely excited from where, even if this year, doesn't quite pan out with the high hopes that we have, I think the way our salary and contracts are now structured, you can't complain. It's almost night and day, and I think the next year or two looks bright. Again, the Kyrie, and I will pat my back on this, as much as I can. I am so glad we got Kyrie. A lot of people still are kind of unsure about him. I just think getting a player like that, and even if, we're giving him essentially like $40 million a year, 41 or 42 or something like that, on average, it's just done so much for the way we can structure players and what we can do. Getting off of Bertans' contract, I mean, I just think, I am hoping this is a sign of things to come, that we understand roster construction a little better now, instead of, it's not always about value. Yes, you want to try and get value, but sometimes, this kind of goes back to what I said about Kyrie. You need a little something extra than just money. And having a star player like Luka, now with Kyrie, who a lot of guys like to play with, I think that was one of the problems with Dirk, is, a lot of guys were just unsure about playing with Dirk, even in his prime. Yeah, you could say, of course, it'd be nice to play with Dirk, but when you looked around and you got guys like Kobe or LeBron or something like that, right? Dirk's name just doesn't like pop out to you as a guy you want to play with. And the way Luka kind of dominates the ball and all that, I could see Luka not necessarily being like this guy that just pops out in guys' mind as like wanting to go build something with for whatever reason, right? He just is not a big talker, neither was Dirk, that kind of thing. And having a guy like Kyrie, I think, makes players want to come to Dallas more. It makes us more of a destination for guys to come play with. And I think that will pay off big time in the next year or two. And so going forward, man, Williams or Allen, if we can get one of those guys, they're on our radar. I think Williams especially, but I would take either one happily. And, getting off a few of those contracts. Where we were, if you would have asked me 3/4 of the way through last year, I was very frustrated with not just what was happening on the court, but it seemed like off the court, we just had no direction, right? There just wasn't like a vision. There wasn't a goal. It didn't seem like we were all together going in the same direction with the same idea of what's going to happen. And I know sometimes you got to wait for stuff like re-signing Kyrie and the draft. And it's just where we were from like 3/4 of the way to last season to the end. And this offseason is night and day. And I couldn't be happier. The future looks bright again. There's optimism, which I think is important. Again, Luka is everything right now. Like, you have to send I think, and that's also why getting Kyrie was so big, is that sends a message to Luka that, hey, like, we're trying to win. We're trying to do something here for you. We're trying to get this done. We're not gonna leave you hanging. If we can go get a guy, we're gonna go get him, right? And I think getting Kyrie has really spurred a lot of this on. I think it's really changed the mindset of Dallas, both from an outside perspective and the people in the organization that, like, we have a guy like Luka. We're trying to win rings here, right? We're trying to build contenders, right? We're not in rebuild mode. We're not in standstill mode. It's if we got a bad contract, we got to move it. If this guy can be signed, we got to sign him. And, Cuban's got deep pockets. That's always good for going over the cap and whatnot. But I just think the energy, that's mainly what my video, I guess, is about. The energy and the outlook and the optimism of this team is just total night and day from the end of the year to now. And I am very excited as a Mavs fan. I need to get back on doing the live stream of the games. It's just I started a new job there. It kind of threw me off a little bit, as well as going to the gym and stuff. So I need to get back on that. I enjoy commentating on games and breaking down film and all that kind of stuff. And, a little bit of frustration there about halfway through. Just the Mavs were just wasn't clicking, right? And the end of the season left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths. But, man, like, now, I mean, I'm pumped. I mean, I'm always pumped, right? As if you're a Mavs fan. If you're a fan, right, of any team, you're always pumped. It doesn't even matter if you're the Pistons or whoever, right? You should always be pumped and excited. And, besides playoffs and maybe like the first game of the year, the draft and free agency is the most exciting time for, basketball. And I just think we have parlayed a few things here. The momentum is on our side. I'm very interested to see what we do in the next week or two with free agents. I can't remember what the date is, but there's some date in terms of a lot of guys. You figure out what they're going to do or when they become more available. Again, I'm not an expert, right? I'm just trying to pick up on stuff I hear, but it's just night and day. The outlook from where we were to now, it's totally different. I would say even now, you got to think top 6, top 5 in the West is kind of the goal here in terms of end of the season playoffs. Home court, I think, is on the upper echelon of goals, which I think is possible. And the only hesitation I have is, in order to materialize all of this into the real world, into results, is going to be on Jason Kidd. And I'm still just not 100% sold on Kidd as a head coach, being able to manufacture an offense and putting guys in the right place, and things of that nature, situational awareness, timeouts. I've said this before, Kidd is an overarching styles coach. He is not like a situational read the defense, break it down, which kind of translates to how he played as a player, right? Kidd, when you think of Kidd, you don't really think of Kidd as like this half-court guru necessarily, right? But he was very much an in the moment transition, could make decisions on the fly in the snap of a drop of a hat. And I think as a coach, he kind of just plays a styles game. He's hoping that over the long run, right, this strategy will win out, instead of saying, hey, this is still our strategy, but for a little bit here, we're going to adjust. We're going to do this. We're going to run this play until the defense does something else, or we're going to attack it like this, or what have you, right? Or we need to change it up. I think that's where he has a weakness. Maybe he's become aware of that. Who knows? Maybe they've even talked about that in the front office. So who knows, right? But that's my video on the Mavs. I'm stoked. Absolutely stoked. 100%. I'm ready. I'm hoping, Luka comes in shape. Last year he came in shape. He got hurt. I think he kind of fell off a little bit, so we'll see. But I think, if he can come in shape, if the energy is good on the team, and Kyrie, doesn't take any days off, I just think we've made some really good moves here, and we still have one or two moves to go, and that's exciting to think about. So we'll see what happens. If something big happens, I'll make another video about it, but keep your eye on Williams and Allen. I'm hoping somehow we can get one of those guys, and I think if we get one of those guys, I think we jump up to contender status. Maybe not prime contender, but definitely at that bottom of the tier 1 contenders, maybe, first up in the tier 2 contenders, however you kind of want to put that. We won't be odds on favorite or anything, but I think we will be a threat with getting one of those two guys on our team. So, and if things keep developing, Hardy, Green, I just think this team's future is very bright. Kleba's coming back, Maxey, if a few of those guys can come back and play that role that they did when we went to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, I mean, the sky's the limit, really. So that's my video. I'll talk to you guys next time.